Today I ducked up by enraging the parents of my girlfriend by pretending not to know what a potato is. Let me tell you that I have made a bad mistake this evening. My girlfriend, who let me tell you is only my second girlfriend of all time, said I'm invited to dinner with her and her parents. I was very aghast, nervous, and bashful to be invited to such a situation. But I knew it must be done. I met them nicely, I should tell you, and it started off in a good way. The idea slapped my mind that I should do a comic bit to make a good impression and become known to them as a person who is amusing. When I saw that baked potatoes were served, I got the idea that it would be very good if I pretended I did not know what potatoes was. That would be funny. Well, let me tell you, backfired on my face. I'll tell you how. So first, when the potato became on my plate, I acted very interesting. I showed an expression on my face so as to seem that I was confused, astounded, but in a restrained way, curious and interested. They did notice and seemed confused, but did not remark. So I asked, "This looks very interesting. What is this?" They stared at me, and the mother said, "It's a baked potato." And I was saying, "Oh, interesting, a baked, what is it again?" And she was like, "A potato." And I was like, "A potato, oh interesting. Never heard of a potato, looks pretty good." And then they didn't see I was clowning, but thought I really did not know what is a potato. So I knew I would be very shamed, humiliated, depressed, and disgusted if I admitted to making a bad joke. So what I did was to act as if it was not a joke, but I committed to the act of pretending I didn't know what a potato is. They asked me, very incredulous, did I really not know what a potato is? That I never heard of a potato. I went with it and told them, yes, I did not ever even hear of a potato. Not only had I never eaten a potato, I had never heard the word potato. This went on for a bit, and my girlfriend was acting very confused and embarrassed by my ducked up antics. And then the more insistent I was about not knowing what a potato is, was when the parents starting thinking I did know what a potato was. Well, let me tell you, I had to commit 100% at this point. When I would not admit to knowing what a potato was, the father especially began to get annoyed. At one point he said something like, "Enough is enough. You're ducking with us. Admit it." And I said, "Sir, before today I never heard of a potato. I still don't know what a potato is, other than some kind of food. I don't know what to tell you." Well, let me tell you, he got very annoyed. I decided to take a bite of the potato, and when I did, I made a high-pitched noise and said, "Tastes very strange." That is when the father started yelling at me, and the mother kept saying, "What are you doing?" And my girlfriend went to some other room. Finally the father said I should get the duck out of his house, and I said it was irrational to treat me like this, just because I never heard of a potato before. Well, let me tell you, he didn't take that kindly. Now in text messages I have been telling my girlfriend I really don't know what a potato is. The only way I can ever get out of this is for them to buy that I don't know what a potato is. I wish I never started it, but I can't go back. I think she will break up with me anyway. Invite your girlfriend to meet your parents. Have your father take her aside and ask if potatoes were served at the dinner with her parents. When she says yes, he looks alarmed, mutters something about wanting to keep them from him, and never mentions the subject again. That's if he still has a girlfriend. She doesn't really seem like a keeper if she can't handle a good old-fashioned potato joke. When she tells you she's breaking up with you, tell her you don't know what a breakup is. Commit to that and exert your dominance. When confronted about this horrible joke, insist it never happened with the same level of commitment. Maybe they will just think you have a brain disorder. Continue to do this with something different every time you see them. So what's this giant chair thing we are all sitting on called again? Oh, a couch. It's very interesting. Tastes very strange. Today I pranked my wife into believing in magic. That long con. So I have been setting this prank up for about 3 weeks now, but unfortunately the fruits of my labor came to fruition yesterday. All for the best, I guess. Background: my wife and I are very healthy, and we eat the same thing for breakfast every day. Well, maybe a solid 350 days a year. It is egg whites and toast. It has got to the point that if I don't eat this for breakfast, my entire day feels off. I put salsa on my eggs while she uses ketchup, and she has to have ketchup or else she will not eat breakfast. We have a backup bottle or two in the pantry just in case she runs out. 3 weeks ago, I noticed that her bottle is running pretty low, and she has to actively shake the bottle to get the last remnants out. We are pretty earth conscious as well, so nothing goes to waste, use until the last drop. There is still just enough left in the bottle that I can tell she is thinking that she shouldn't recycle it just yet and puts it back into the fridge. I notice this thought process going on in her head and decide I should mess with her. Once we finish up breakfast, she goes to get ready. I take one of the full bottles of ketchup and add just enough to the almost empty bottle so that she will have the amount needed for breakfast the next day. Breakfast the next day rolls around and she does the same thing, adds ketchup to her breakfast and decides there is just enough to save and puts it back in the fridge. I again refill the bottle with just enough for the next day. I should also mention that she is short. I hid the refill bottle at the top of the pantry so she could not see that it had been opened and used. 2 weeks ago, after 7 days slyly watching her add ketchup to her breakfast, I can begin to see an intrigued look on her face when she is prepping her breakfast. She doesn't say anything, but you can tell she has taken notice of the bottle. This goes on for another 7 days. 1 week ago, breakfast continues to go off without a hitch, and every time she adds the ketchup to her breakfast she gets a little twinkle in her eye, like she really wants to say something about it, but doesn't want me to make fun of her being crazy and thinking the ketchup bottle is never ending. To the point that she will look at me, start to say something, and then stop herself, change the subject, and put the bottle away. I have never looked forward to breakfast so much in my entire life. All this week, she is on the verge of saying something every day. It's becoming hard to not laugh while watching her add the ketchup to her eggs, but I'm laughing hysterically on the inside. At this point I have used roughly a half bottle of ketchup, refilling the other one. This is all I can imagine when watching her. Yesterday, she adds ketchup to her breakfast and looks me directly in the eye and dead serious says, "You/this we have a ducking magical ketchup bottle." I could not control my laughter and proceed to loose my shut while she tries to explain to me how she has used the exact same bottle of ketchup for 3 weeks and it has been almost empty the entire time. She now thinks I'm laughing because of her belief in magic, and she is trying as hard as possible to convince me that she is serious and it is magic. I proceed to go into the pantry, take out the half-empty bottle of ketchup and place it on the counter. It all finally clicks in her head, and at that moment the empty ketchup bottle clicked into my head, but don't care because I made a magic ketchup bottle happen, so I'm essentially Jesus. TLDR, made my wife believe we had a magic ketchup bottle, but it hurt just as much as normal bottle when flung at my face. Hands down the greatest long con ever. Bravo. Today I ducked up by throwing my steak out a window. Last night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me just how important it was to make a good impression. I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that I always make good impressions. My wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to really be hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes and my wife seemed pleased. Soon she brought out the main course, a nice big juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked this steak was. Now, I've had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably cold resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. Claim veganism? No, I'd already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed the steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big time duck up. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into more of a "there is no place on this planet you can ever hide from me" expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud of the steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was "I'm so sorry. I'm such a klutz. I don't know. I was just cutting it, and it slipped. Just ask my wife. I really am a klutz, right honey? No help coming from that direction. I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry, etc., etc." Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin as I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted off the steak, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation. I knew no one was buying the story. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat and proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody raw steak. I remained pretty quiet the rest of the evening. My wife's only 2 words to me since the incident are, "I'm fine." TLDR, tried to sneakily throw my undercooked steak through an open window, only to find out it wasn't open. Update, just got the first post "I'm fine" communication from my wife, via text, who is at work. Good news. Boss name and I just had a good laugh over how much of a ducking idiot you are. I hope you know you will never live this down. Love you, you moron. This would be an excellent Windex commercial. You should have grilled the steak under the pretense that you were killing off any germs it might have picked up on the floor. What you do here is cut both you and your wife's steaks in half and each swap a half before the boss returns. Then you both eat the well-prepared half and describe how delicious it is, but that you're full by the time you get to the rare half. Mon op.